I remember the marina before I remember his face. The water was black and still, reflecting rows of white lights like a broken mirror. Luxury yachts lined the docks, quiet and untouchable, floating worlds meant for people who never looked back. Soft music drifted from somewhere far away, smooth and expensive, the kind that made everything feel slower. At the far end, the biggest yacht glowed brighter than the rest. Its name, Elysium, was painted in gold along the side. It didn't look real. It looked like something that didn't belong to this world, and somehow, neither did the man standing on its deck. I felt his eyes on me before I saw him. Welcome back to Storyverse Vault, my beautiful, amazing Story Vault family. You all have been so supportive, and I promise to always try my best to give you the best stories. As I learned and improve every day. If this is your first time coming across my video, do comment below where you are watching from and hit subscribe to officially join the story. Vault family, now let's get into today's story. Lena Carter moved along the dock with a clipboard pressed to her chest. At 18, she had already learned how to disappear while standing in plain sight. She wore plain clothes, hair tied back, posture alert but unassuming. Her job was simple: check moorings, log arrivals, answer questions without asking any of her own. But her eyes missed nothing. She noticed the security cameras before the guests did. She noticed which yachts had private guards, and which only pretended to. And she noticed when a man who never spoke to anyone started watching her. Victor Hale stood alone on the deck of Elysium. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He simply watched. The kind of watching that felt measured, deliberate, and patient. Everyone on the dock knew his name. The billionaire who avoided interviews. The man who arrived at private events after everyone else had already settled. The man who never invited anyone onto his yacht. Lena felt a subtle shift around her. Whispers, glances, dock workers slowing their steps just to see what would happen next. When Victor spoke, his voice carried easily over the water. "Miss." Just one word. Lena looked up despite herself. He met her gaze without blinking. "I was wondering if you'd join me for a drink." The dock went quiet. No laughter, no music. Even the water seemed to still. This man did not invite people for drinks. Lena felt every pair of eyes lock onto her back. I should have said no. I knew that the moment the word formed in my head. But curiosity is louder when you've spent your life being ignored. I felt the weight of something unspoken pressing down on me. This wasn't casual. This wasn't random. He already knew my answer before I opened my mouth. My throat went dry. I nodded once. Victor extended a hand, formal and steady. No rush, no force. Lena stepped onto the gangway, every movement measured. The yacht loomed larger with each step. Its surface was spotless, almost clinical. 2 security men watched without speaking. No one stopped her. No one asked for her name. The world she came from stayed behind on the dock. The doors closed behind her with a soft mechanical sound. Inside, the air felt different, cooler, controlled. The yacht interior looked more like a private museum than a place meant to live. Glass cases held art worth more than entire neighborhoods. Screens lined one wall, showing live feeds from every angle outside. Locked doors blended seamlessly into polished wood. Victor walked ahead without looking back. He spoke calmly as they moved deeper inside. "Do you like your work, Lena?" She stopped walking. Most people didn't know her name. Victor turned slowly, studying her reaction. "You grew up nearby," he continued. Your mother worked 2 jobs. Lena felt a tight knot form in her chest. My father disappeared when I was young. Her silence was answer enough. I finally understood then. This wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. You didn't invite me for a drink, I said, my voice quieter than I wanted. You invited me because you already know me. Victor's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. He turned and opened a door at the end of the corridor. Instead of a bar, it led into a private office. After you, he said. The office felt sealed off from the rest of the yacht, insulated from sound and time. Dark wood panels absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. A single desk sat centered, perfectly organized, as if no one ever worked there, only waited. Victor gestured toward a chair without asking if she wanted to sit. Lena stayed standing. Her eyes tracked everything: the hidden cameras, the reinforced glass, the door that locked itself behind them with a muted click. This wasn't where drinks were served. Victor moved with unhurried precision. He removed his jacket and placed it neatly over the chair opposite the desk. Relax, he said, voice smooth and controlled. You're not in danger here. Lena didn't respond. Men who said that usually meant the opposite. He poured a drink from a crystal decanter, amber liquid catching the light. He set the glass down in front of her, but didn't push it closer. Instead, he studied her like a problem already solved. He began asking questions that felt misplaced, not about school, not about work, about nights she couldn't remember clearly, about the way her mother used to lock the door twice before sleeping, about the man who vanished without a body or a goodbye. Lena's pulse quickened. Each question landed too close to something buried. You've done your research, she said. Victor didn't correct her. I felt exposed in a way I never had before. Not naked, not ashamed, cataloged, like every quiet moment of my life had been sorted and filed. You don't ask these things unless you're sure, I said. He nodded once. Certainty radiated from him. That scared me more than anger ever could. I took a step back, closer to the door. Victor reached into a drawer and removed a thick envelope. Not hurried, not dramatic. He placed it on the desk between them, aligning it perfectly with the edge. The drink sat untouched beside it. This, he said, tapping the envelope lightly, is why you're here. Lena stared at it without moving. Paper shouldn't feel heavy from a distance, but this did. He slid the envelope toward her instead of the glass. Open it. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed that once I did, there was no undoing it. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were documents arranged with surgical neatness, official stamps, signatures, dates that lined up too well. She pulled out the first page, a birth certificate, her name printed clearly across the top, her mother's name beneath it. The second page made her breath hitch. A DNA analysis, highlighted sections, percentages that removed all doubt. The final item was a photograph, her mother, younger, visibly pregnant, standing beside Victor Hale, alive, smiling. I felt the floor tilt under me. This wasn't revelation, it was impact. You're wrong, I said, though the words had no weight. Victor's voice softened, just slightly. You weren't supposed to exist, he said, but now you matter more than anyone in this room. My ears rang. Nothing in my life had prepared me for that sentence. Victor leaned back, eyes never leaving hers. There are people, he said carefully, who will not allow you to live once they know you're real. The hum of the yacht filled the silence that followed. Lena closed the envelope with shaking hands. For the first time since stepping aboard, Fear eclipsed confusion. "Someone," Victor finished, "is trying to kill you." The words didn't fade after he said them. They stayed in the air like a held breath. Lena stood still, processing the idea that her life had shifted without warning. Victor rose from his chair and walked toward the wall of screens. Each monitor showed a different angle of the marina: boats, docks, shadows moving where they shouldn't. "This yacht isn't just a luxury," he said. "It's a shelter." He explained without softness. "A private trust created decades earlier, conditions sealed behind layers of legal silence, one trigger, DNA confirmation at 18 years old. If Lena lived to this moment, ownership transferred beyond appeal, assets, companies, influence that moved markets." "People with everything to lose don't hesitate," Victor said. Lena crossed her arms, grounding herself. I didn't believe him. Not fully. "You waited 18 years, I said. "Why now?" The question hit harder than I intended. Victor's jaw tightened. "Because before now," he answered, "you were defenseless." That didn't make me feel safer. It made me feel managed. A sharp tone cut through the room. Not loud, precise. Victor's eyes flicked to the screens. One camera showed open water beyond the yacht. Something small moved against the dark surface, too steady to be a wave, too deliberate to be nothing. Victor's hand hovered over the control panel. "Stay where you are," he said. The yacht shifted subtly as systems engaged, doors sealed, lights dimmed in stages. Lena felt the vibration through the floor. A low hum replaced the distant music from the marina. Victor spoke rapidly into a secured line. Codes, coordinates, orders issued without explanation. The calm he'd worn all night fractured. I realized then that this was real. Not theory, not leverage. Someone out there wanted me erased. My hands curled into fists at my sides. "Am I a liability to you?" I asked. Victor looked at me fully for the first time since the alarm. "No," he said. "You're the reason they're afraid." A shadow crossed the window. The drone passed close enough to rattle the glass. Automatic defenses activated with a sharp mechanical click. The device veered away, vanishing into the night. Victor exhaled slowly. "They found us faster than I thought," he said. He moved to a reinforced door and pressed his palm to the scanner. The office door slid open into a secured corridor. Victor gestured for Lena to follow. "This part matters," he said. "If you walk away now, you walk blind." She hesitated only a moment. The marina she knew felt impossibly far away. She stepped through. The door sealed behind them. As they moved deeper into the yacht, Lena's thoughts raced. Everything she believed about her life had been rewritten in minutes. The man beside her wasn't offering protection out of kindness. He was correcting a mistake. And mistakes like her didn't survive in his world, not without becoming something else entirely. The secured corridor opened into a living quarters that felt deliberately impersonal. Neutral colors, no photos, no signs of comfort. Victor activated privacy shielding with a voice command. The walls hummed softly as signals were cut off from the outside world. "This area doesn't exist on public schematics," he said. Lena leaned against the counter, steadying herself. Her reflection stared back at her from polished steel, unfamiliar and pale. Victor finally sat down, the weight of years settling into his posture. "There are things you deserve to know," he said. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't apologize. He spoke like a man reviewing an old case file. He talked about a woman who refused silence, a woman who wouldn't disappear quietly. Lena listened without interrupting, her chest tightening with every familiar detail. He described Lena's mother before life wore her down. Brilliant, stubborn, unwilling to accept half-truths. She knew what I was building, Victor said, and she knew who it would anger. He admitted to arranging protection that came too late, to trusting systems instead of people. The words landed with blunt force. Mistakes spoken plainly were still mistakes. I remembered my mother locking the door at night. I remembered the way she went quiet whenever unfamiliar cars slowed near our building. I thought it was poverty that scared her. I was wrong. So, what was I to you? I asked. An heir. A mistake. Insurance. Victor closed his eyes briefly. You were leverage, he said, until you became a liability. Then he corrected himself, and then you became a responsibility. The honesty hurt more than denial ever could. Lena felt anger rise, sharp and focused. You let her die, she said. Victor nodded once. I didn't protect her when it mattered. The silence stretched between them. Not empty, heavy. Victor explained how money had been routed anonymously for years. Education funds, medical coverage, rent paid through shell accounts. I watched from a distance, he said, to keep you hidden. Lena laughed once, humorless. You don't watch people you see as human, she said. I activated the recorder on my phone without looking at it. The click was silent. My hands rested calmly on the table. Say it again, I said. Say you chose your empire over her life. Victor studied me for a long moment. Then he spoke. I made a choice, he said, and she paid for it. The yacht shuddered slightly as engines adjusted course. Victor straightened, instinctively alert, but he continued speaking. About regret that arrived too late. About power that always demanded a price. Lena felt the weight of proof settle into her pocket. This wasn't revenge. It was truth, preserved. When Victor finally stopped talking, the room felt smaller. Lena stood. Her legs were steady now. She didn't thank him. She didn't forgive him. She simply met his gaze and turned toward the door. Behind her, the past remained trapped in a recording. Ahead of her, nothing was certain anymore. The corridor outside the secured quarters was quieter than before. The yacht no longer felt like a refuge. It felt like a controlled environment closing in. Lena walked alone, her footsteps muted by thick flooring. Panels along the walls glowed faintly as she passed. This part of the yacht wasn't designed for guests. It was designed for containment. She followed a narrow passage marked only by a coded symbol Victor had used earlier. She reached a terminal embedded into the wall. No keyboard, only a biometric scanner. On impulse, she pressed her palm against it. The system paused, then unlocked. That moment told her everything she needed to know. This yacht already recognized her. Screens unfolded from the wall, flooding the corridor with cold blue light. Files began to populate the display. Legal structures layered inside legal structures. Trust names masked behind numbered entities. Dates stretched back nearly 2 decades. Lena scrolled carefully, her jaw tightening. She wasn't reading chaos. She was reading intent. A plan designed to mature at the exact moment she turned 18. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. There it was, a clause buried deep in the trust. Any acknowledgement of my existence before adulthood would have triggered scrutiny, litigation, exposure. Victor hadn't waited to protect me. He had waited to protect himself. The truth didn't scream. It clicked quietly into place. She moved deeper into the system. Encrypted folders opened one after another. Surveillance reports, periodic updates on her location, school records, medical summaries. Victor hadn't watched from a distance. He had monitored her life with precision. Lena's hands curled into fists as she scrolled past her own childhood, itemized. I wasn't a daughter. I was a delayed variable, a safeguard waiting to be activated when the risk became acceptable. My chest tightened, not with fear, but clarity. He didn't bring me here to save me. He brought me here to manage the fallout of his past decisions, control dressed up as concern. Footsteps echoed faintly somewhere above. Lena closed several windows and froze. The yacht creaked as it adjusted course again. She accessed the final folder, a contingency protocol. Instructions outlining how Victor would retain influence even after transfer of assets. Advisors, guardians, limitations placed carefully around her autonomy. The cage was elegant, but it was still a cage. I understood then why he hadn't denied it earlier. There was nothing accidental about any of this. He had planned for every outcome except my reaction. Anger sharpened my thoughts instead of clouding them. I backed away from the terminal and wiped my palm clean against my jacket. If this was a game of power, I had just learned the rules. A sudden vibration rippled through the hull. Not mechanical, impact. The lights flickered once, then again. A warning tone sounded, low and urgent. Lena turned toward the corridor just as red indicators ignited along the walls. Whatever was coming wasn't subtle anymore. The yacht lurched hard to starboard, throwing Lena against the wall. Emergency strips burned red along the floor, guiding no one in particular. A sharp metallic clang echoed from somewhere below deck. Not an alarm test, not a malfunction. This was forced contact. Lena pushed off the wall and ran toward the nearest junction, breath tight in her chest. The truth she'd uncovered was no longer theoretical. Armed men breached from the aft section with disciplined speed. Their movements were clean, rehearsed, silent, faces obscured. No insignia. They weren't thieves. They weren't panicking. They knew exactly where to go. Lena ducked behind a structural pillar as boots thundered past, weapons raised. This wasn't about Victor anymore. This was about erasure. I felt my pulse everywhere at once. There was no room for disbelief, only direction. I moved when the noise shifted, slipping through a service passage barely wide enough to breathe in. My hands shook, but my steps stayed quiet. I wasn't thinking about survival in general. I was thinking about seconds. Seconds were the only currency left. Victor emerged from the opposite corridor, weapon already drawn. His calm was gone, replaced by precision. "Stay behind me," he ordered without looking at her. Gunfire erupted before she could respond. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Sparks burst from metal panels as rounds struck. Victor returned fire, forcing the intruders back. The lights cut out completely. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, casting everything in harsh white beams. Lena heard a sharp grunt behind her. She turned just as Victor staggered. A dark bloom spread across his side. He stayed upright through sheer will. "Move," he said, voice strained. I didn't want to touch him, didn't want to owe him anything else. But the corridor behind us erupted again with gunfire. I grabbed his arm and pulled. We moved together, uneven and desperate. His breathing was shallow now. Each step cost him something. The yacht groaned around us like it knew this wasn't ending cleanly. They reached a sealed junction near the central core. Victor slammed his palm against the panel. The door refused. He cursed under his breath and reached into his jacket. Blood smeared across his fingers as he pressed a black keycard into Lena's hand. "This overrides everything," he said. His knees buckled. She caught him before he hit the floor. The sound of approaching boots grew louder. Victor met her eyes, clarity cutting through the pain. "Don't let them decide what you are," he said. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't forgiveness. It was instruction. Lena tightened her grip on the card. I stood as the door finally unlocked behind me. The corridor beyond was dark and narrow, sloping upward. Victor remained on the floor where she left him, alive but exposed. Gunfire echoed closer. I didn't look back again. The key card burned against my palm as I ran. Whatever came next would be on my terms. The passage angled upward, tight and unforgiving. Lena ran with one hand skimming the wall to keep her balance. The yacht vibrated with distant impacts, dull thuds traveling through steel ribs. Emergency arrows pulsed along the floor, guiding her toward the bow. Her breath burned, measured now, controlled. Fear had sharpened into focus. The keycard stayed clenched in her fist like an anchor. The corridor opened into a maintenance bay exposed to night air. Cold wind cut across her face. Below, black water surged against the hull. Above, a retractable hatch began to slide open. She swiped the keycard at a manual console. The system accepted it without hesitation. A ladder dropped into place with a heavy clang. This yacht still recognized her authority. I climbed without looking down. Each rung bit into my palms. The sounds behind me blurred into noise. I didn't think about Victor. I didn't think about blood. I thought about air, about distance, about making it past the next 10 seconds. The hatch opened fully as I reached the top. She emerged onto the upper deck as the yacht cut its engines abruptly. Silence crashed down, broken only by wind and waves. Beyond the bow, flashing blue lights pierced the dark. Patrol boats, helicopter rotors thudded overhead, sweeping the water with white beams. The authorities had arrived faster than anyone expected. Lena crouched low, heart pounding, unsure who the lights were for. The intruders scattered with professional efficiency. Figures leapt over railings into the water below. Others retreated into the yacht's depths. Warning shots cracked across the surface of the sea. Lena stayed still, pressed against a bulkhead. She wasn't their target anymore. Not out here. Not in the open. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief. Release. I hadn't won anything. I had survived long enough for the world to see. That mattered more. I stepped into the open and raised both hands slowly. The cold air filled my lungs like a reset. Officers boarded the yacht in coordinated waves. Weapons trained. Commands shouted with practiced authority. Lena complied without speaking, kneeling when told. She handed over the key card when asked. Her fingers trembled now that the urgency had passed. A medic rushed past her toward the interior. Victor was still alive. I watched them take him out on a stretcher. His face was pale, eyes open, fixed on nothing. He didn't look at me. I didn't look away. There was no triumph in it, no closure, just consequence catching up to intent. The helicopter lights washed over us both. As the night settled into controlled chaos, Lena sat wrapped in a thermal blanket. Questions waited, but no one pressed yet. She stared at the water where the intruders had vanished. The recording sat heavy in her pocket. Proof had a weight all its own. The yacht behind her loomed silent now. For the first time, it felt empty. Morning came quietly, without ceremony. The marina looked smaller in daylight. Police tape cut across sections of the dock. Reporters gathered behind barriers, voices blending into a low, constant murmur. Lena sat in the back of an unmarked vehicle, watching everything through tinted glass. No one recognized her. Not yet. The night felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. Statements were taken in a neutral room that smelled faintly of disinfectant. Names were repeated back to her for confirmation. Dates, times. She answered only what was asked. The recording stayed unmentioned, safe in her pocket. Victor's lawyers arrived before noon. Their confidence faded when they realized how much had already been logged. Systems seized, accounts frozen, momentum had shifted. I didn't release the recording right away. I waited until the noise settled into expectation, until the story everyone thought they understood hardened into fact. Then I uploaded it. Unedited, unframed, just his voice, clear and undeniable. The silence after I pressed publish felt heavier than the gunfire had. The response was immediate. Markets reacted before the public did. Board members resigned within hours. Partnerships dissolved under scrutiny. The trust was no longer a mystery. It was evidence. Victor Hale became a headline stripped of mystique. Not a mastermind, not a legend, just a man who made choices and left a trail. I watched it all from a small rented room with bare walls. No guards, no handlers, just space. Messages poured in from people who didn't know me yesterday. Some angry, some grateful, most hungry for a version of me I wasn't interested in becoming. I turned the phone face down. Weeks passed. Investigations widened. The yacht Elysium sat impounded, stripped of secrecy. Victor survived surgery, but not the exposure. Charges followed, then silence. Lena declined every offer made through intermediaries. Money felt loud now. She wanted quiet. I returned to the marina on an ordinary afternoon. No cameras, no tape, just water and movement. The dock looked exactly the same. That mattered. I stood where I had been working the night everything changed. I felt lighter without carrying answers that weren't mine to solve anymore. A sign near the entrance listed upcoming auctions. One name stood out: Elysium. The yacht that had once felt untouchable was reduced to a line of text and a date. Lena watched workers move past it without reverence. Power didn't age well once the illusion cracked. I didn't stay long. There was nothing left to confront. No inheritance to claim. No revenge to savor. He offered me a drink. What he handed me instead was the truth, and the freedom to walk away without owing anyone my silence. Months later, the yacht sold quietly to a foreign buyer. Its name repainted, its history scrubbed. Lena Carter didn't become a symbol or a spectacle. She became unreachable by design. Some stories end with power changing hands. This one ended with power being refused. If you made it this far, you are truly part of the Storyverse Vault family. Please hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts on the story. Your support helps this channel grow and pushes me to keep improving and bringing you stronger, deeper stories. Stay connected, because many more unforgettable stories are coming soon.